Hello everyone. As most of you know, I am on the Witching Hour, and I create videos on all things that may go bump in the night. Today will be the start of a new series, where I take you all back in time, before I believed in the paranormal. We will walk together, as I show you my first encounter with things that could not be explained, to all the stories of my haunted home I grew up in. This new multi-part series will have a lot of turns and twists. I will be as open and honest as possible, for you all to know how I ended up here today. So sit back, relax, and turn off all the lights, as we relive these events, together. Let's go back to the year, 1993. I was born in the capital of Louisiana, a city called Baton Rouge, which is about an hour and 15 minutes northwest of the famous city of New Orleans. My childhood was not different than any other kid of the time. I grew up playing sports, eating amazing Louisiana food, and taking fun vacations with my family. Both of my parents are Catholic, like most people in southern Louisiana. However, my parents were not the type to shove their religious views on me or any of my friends. Although we would attend church every Sunday, ghosts and hauntings were never talked about in a serious light. You would hear stories of different buildings and locations in the area that were supposedly haunted. But that's all they were. Fun stories our friends would tell each other in the middle of the night. However, all of that would change. When I was about 12 years old, my family and I went on a tour of the infamous Myrtles Plantation. For those who have never heard of this place, it is believed to be one of the most haunted homes in the United States. It is an old plantation, located right outside of Baton Rouge, in a town called St. Francisville. This 226-year-old plantation is believed to be haunted by at least 12 ghosts. None more famous than the ghost of Chloe. Here is the story of Chloe and the Myrtles Plantation. Our story begins with a newly married couple, Mr. and Mrs. Clark Woodruff. Mr. Woodruff was a prestigious judge and owned numerous slaves, as was the norm at the time. One of his house slaves went by the name of Chloe, who for many years fell victim to Woodruff's cruelty. Chloe tried to protect herself from the abuse by listening into the Woodruff's conversations and modifying her behavior. One day, after being caught eavesdropping, Woodruff had Chloe's left ear cut off, forcing her to carry the shame and disfigurement the rest of her life. Her mutilation was hidden, at the request of the Woodruffs, by the use of a green turban. No one would see this terrifying mark, but the painful experience would stay with Chloe and inspire her to make plans for revenge. On the 9th birthday of the Woodruff's daughter, Chloe placed poisonous oleander leaves into the cake. Chloe's plan was to poison Mrs. Woodruff and their children. Some sources claim that it was never her intention to kill the 3 family members. They suggest that Chloe wanted to get them sick so she could nurse them back to health. In the South, local healers were among the most respected of the community. If Chloe could heal the family, she would be safe from the harsh reality of working in the fields. Tragically, the dosage was lethal, and it ended up killing Mrs. Woodruff and her 2 children. After word spread of her actions on the plantation, the other slaves were the ones to take revenge. Chloe was hanged by the neck, for everyone to witness, until the life was drained from her body. She was then weighed down by rocks and thrown into the Mississippi River. The plantation was the site of other gruesome activity after Chloe's death. The new owner, a wealthy family man, and his 5 children would pass away from tuberculosis on the property. The home was later passed to one of his surviving daughters and her husband, the Winters. Mr. Winter was a proud member of his community and did his part by teaching Sunday school at his home. One day, as Mr. Winter was teaching, an unknown man rode up on a horse yelling to see him. As he came out to address this man, he was shot at point-blank range on his front porch. He retreated into the home and staggered up the stairs to eventually die in the arms of his wife. The plantation went on to be used as a film set for movies like The Long Hot Summer. These visitors were not safe from having their own paranormal encounters. While filming, Cast and crew members reported witnessing furniture moving around the home all of its own. They could find nothing to explain this activity. The paranormal activity became more noticeable beginning in the 1970s once it was purchased by the Myers family. Multiple guests and residents reported seeing the transparent and ghostly apparitions of a young girl wearing a green turban moving throughout property. In 1992, the owner took a famous photo that they believe captures Chloe's spirit. This photo was intended to be used to secure an insurance policy for the home in case of fire or other natural disasters, not to prove paranormal activity. The presence of a human figure within the photo was undiscovered until it was developed. The owner reports that there was no one in that area at the time the photo was taken. One of the most disturbing paranormal reports occurs inside the home. In the grand hallway, there is an antique mirror just outside of the dining room. The visitors report seeing Woodruff's children appear in the mirror near the room where they were poisoned. One homeowner noted that each time the mirror is replaced or re-silvered, the same handprint reappears as if they refuse to be ignored. Today this residence is known as the Myrtles Plantation Bed and Breakfast, but is also recognized as one of the most haunted houses in America according to the National Geographic. They offer historical tours through the day and into the dark of night. Now, back to my story. My family and I decided to take a guided tour and eat dinner afterwards at the restaurant located on the plantation grounds. Being young and having never experienced anything paranormal, I was not scared to be there, nor was I scared of ghosts. At the time, I thought it would be cool to meet a ghost of one of the children who was poisoned by Chloe, so I could talk about what it was like back then. The tour was going well, and I was excited to see everything. The plantation is beautiful, and contains all the furniture and historical items that are original to the home. The guide led us into one room, where the temperature was noticeably cooler than the other areas of the plantation. This was nothing to me. Just a cooler room, which I enjoyed because Louisiana is an extremely humid state. Once the guide was finished talking about that room, everyone was led into a different room. However, I stayed back to look at the different unique paintings on the wall. I could hear the muffled sounds of the guide talking in the other room, as I stared at a framed painting on the wall. A blast of cool air rushed around me, and the smell of perfume filled my nose, followed by footsteps that were walking towards me, just feet away. This was strange, because up until that moment, I have not smelled perfume from anyone on the tour, or in that room previously. I quickly turned around, thinking I was in trouble for not following the tour group into the other room. However, I was greeted by no one, even though the smell of perfume and cold air was still all around me. Being naive, I did not think of this as a paranormal encounter. I just brushed it off, and decided to meet back up with the rest of the group in the other room. Now, the tour led to one of the main living rooms. The tour guide was in the middle of the room, and we were all in front of her as she told her stories. As she was talking, over her shoulder I saw a tall dark figure run past the large open doorway of the living room. At first, I thought I was seeing things. But before I could say anything, a man in the group quickly rushed over to the hallway and began looking around. Shocked, the man turned back to our group and asked if anyone else saw that too. A few people on the tour all said the same thing. It was a tall dark figure, built like a man, running very quickly across the hallway towards the staircase. The air in the living room quickly became noticeably cold. At one point, you could see each other's breaths. We were the only people in the house, because only one tour was allowed in the house at a time. The figure ran from left to right, which means it ran from the front door, towards the staircase. The front door was permanently shut, and locked. No one could have entered through that door. However, as the figure was seen running, there were no sounds of footsteps. For those who have ever visited an old plantation or home, the wooden floors are extremely loud to walk on, even while wearing regular shoes. Once the room became undeniably cold, the group voted to end the tour early. Walking across the courtyard, towards the restaurant, my family and I began asking each other about our thoughts on the tour. My mom and younger sister were not interested in anything involving ghosts or the history of the plantation. They were really there to enjoy an evening out with us and to eat at the delicious restaurant on the grounds. Once we were seated at the restaurant, my dad noticed that my mom's right earring was missing. Being one of her favorite pairs of earrings, my brother and I decided to find the tour guide to see if we could gain access back into the house to look for it. After a few minutes, we found the tour guide and told her that our mom was missing her earring. The guide gave us a look and whispered to us, "Was it her right earring?" Dumbfounded, we said yes and asked her how she knew. That night, 2 other women on the tour with us were missing their right earrings as well. The guide explained to us that over the years, women would often lose their right earrings during the tour. The guide believes it to be from the ghost, Chloe. Since Chloe's left ear was cut off, she would take the right earrings from guests of the property. After searching the house for the better part of 30 minutes, we left empty-handed, not able to find her missing earring. Laying in bed that night, I couldn't help but wonder. Who was it that I heard walking behind me? Did I really smell perfume? Was the man we saw running down the hall a figment of our imagination? The next day, I went online to search for more information. I read that people have similar stories to my own. To my shock, I found a clip from a TV show called Ghost Hunters. They captured a shadow figure by the front door, at the base of the staircase. The figure in this video is exactly what we saw during our tour. Is this the ghost of Mr. Winter? Or, is this his energy reliving his final moments, when he retreated to the staircase after being shot on his front porch? Thank you all for watching episode 1 of my real-life series. I would love to hear if you have an experience that you can't explain. Please comment below if you have any suggestions on how to improve my videos. And never forget, if you hear a bump in the night, know it's on the witching hour.